Welcome back, everybody. Rob from Crown of Thorns, continuing my epic day of marathon filming. It is March 6th, and I'm on video number 3, I believe. And this one is called, Does God Work in 490-Year Increments? And this kind of builds upon the one I just got done filming, which was a very short video. Probably will be a midweek. This one might be a midweek, depending how long it is. But it kind of builds upon the one I did called Are We Nearing the 6,000 Year Mark, where I talked about the Jubilees. This one's going to kind of build upon that, another way to look at all of this stuff in the way that God uses numbers, the way that we can use those numbers to definitely get more information. Use those numbers to confirm, or I shouldn't say confirm, but to establish what God's trying to tell us, to establish what He's trying to convey to us. All right, so let's take a look at this. Does God work in 490-year increments? Now we know that 490 is 70 times 7. Daniel, the prophecy that was given to Daniel, where God said that 70 weeks are determined upon you and your people. Each of those weeks was 7 years. All right, so 70 times 7 is 490. So God said that there's 490 years that are determined upon you and your people, Daniel. So, does God work in 490-year increments? Well, I'm going to show you something pretty fascinating. Pretty fascinating. Let's take a look at this. So, let's start with, I gotta put my cap down, it wants to fall off there. Let's start with Abraham. All right, we got Abraham right here. Okay. Now, from Abraham to the time of the Exodus, hopefully you can see this, okay, is 490 years. All right. From the Exodus to the dedication of the temple, I'm going to abbreviate dedication of the temple, 490 years. Okay? All right. From the dedication of the temple, and that's Solomon's temple. Okay? I should have put that temple, I'll put Solomon's temple. All right, from the dedication of Solomon's temple to the edict of Artaxerxes. All right, I'm just going to put edict, and basically that's the edict to build the wall, but I'll put of Artaxerxes. I'm just going to put art. All right, 490 years. All right. From the edict of Artaxerxes, all right, to the millennial kingdom, 490 years. Okay. And then of course we have this little period before the millennial kingdom starts, where you have, of course, the 7-year tribulation period. We'll put that there. All right. This edict of Artaxerxes, of course, is Daniel 9:25 through 27. All right. And you're going to say, wait a minute, there's more than 490 years between the edict of Artaxerxes until the millennial kingdom. Go back to my video where called What If the Jews Had Accepted Their Messiah? And you'll see that this millennial kingdom would have been someplace else than where it currently is. All right, so keep that in mind. All right, so you have these different periods of 490 years, starting with Abraham. From Abraham to the Exodus, 490 years. From the Exodus to the dedication of Solomon's temple, 490 years. From the dedication of the temple to the edict of Artaxerxes, 490 years. And from the edict to the millennial kingdom, 490 years. All right. And people are going to scoff at that, especially once I put these dates up. So, Abraham was born, most people agree, at 2111 BC, of course. Okay? 2111 BC. The Exodus at 1606 BC. All right? So, from the time that Abraham was born to the time of the Exodus is actually, if you add that out, it comes to 505 years. You're saying, well, that's not 490. And you're correct. You're right. But here's the thing. There are times that God doesn't recognize as being part of his prophecy. For example, whenever the Jews were out of their land, those years that they're out of their land are taken out of, they don't exist to God because the Jews weren't where they were supposed to be. Or if they weren't spiritually correct for some reason, okay, then God will take those periods of years out. He doesn't recognize them. I'm going to show you what I mean. All right. Abraham, remember, had a wife named Sarah. And then she had Sarah, but Sarah and Abraham had, what was her name? Hagar, right? Their maidservant. Now, God told Abraham and Sarah, hey, be patient, hang in there. Trust me, you're going to have a kid. You're going to have a kid. But they're pushing 90 and 100 years old, and it's not happening, and so they start to lose a little bit of faith. They're like, you know what, we might have to go a separate route, Sarah, because I can't imagine that we're actually going to have a kid. So Sarah comes up with the idea. She says, Abraham, go into, or in other words, have relations with my maidservant, and that child will basically be our kid as a surrogate. And that child, of course, was Ishmael. Okay? Now, that's outside of God's plan. That's not what he told them. God didn't want for that to happen. God wanted for Abraham and Sarah to be patient and to have faith so that they would have their own child. And they eventually did. And that, of course, was Isaac. Okay? Hope you're following me. Now, from the time that Ishmael was born to the time that Isaac was born is about 15 years. Okay? Now, was this part of God's prophecy? No. This was Abraham and Sarah coming up with their own plan. So these 15 years before Isaac is born, between Isaac and Ishmael, or Ishmael and Isaac, those 15 years God does not recognize. He does not recognize those years because they're outside of what he wanted. So you go back to this 505 years from Abraham to the Exodus, you subtract these 15 years right here, and guess what you get? 490. It's amazing, isn't it? And I know you're thinking, oh, you're grasping at straws. No. This is true. This is good. It's on the level. I guarantee it. All right. When we step outside of God's will, God doesn't count those years. If he's like, okay, Rob, I have this 10-year plan for you, and 3 of those years I go off and I'm outside of God's will, and then I come back, it might technically be 13 years then for it to be accomplished. But in God's eyes, it was still 10 years. Those 3 years I was out wandering, they don't count. They don't count. Excuse me. All right, so let's see. Yeah, I got to keep my pages straight here. Okay. I always get these pages mixed up because of the way this thing folds. I've been saying that for years. I know I have been. I know you're probably tired of hearing it, but it truly does confuse me, and I'm not sure why. It shouldn't. It shouldn't be hard, but it is for me. All right, let me get to this. Okay. So now, the next part. All right. Hopefully I don't have pages falling out all over. Okay. So, we got that. The dedication of Solomon, okay, was in 1005 BC. Okay. And I'm also going to put this up here, so I don't have to keep flipping. And this is going to be 445 BC. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. So, there we are. So from the Exodus to the dedication of the temple, okay? 1606, 1005. Remember, in the Old Testament, you're counting down, all right? So, if you count this to this, you're going to get, 591 years. All right? And you're saying that's not 490. And you're right, it is not. But check this out. 6 times between these two periods, there were 6 times that the Jews went captive. They were held captive by another nation. 6 times the Jews were captive. Okay? We're going to take a look at them. Go to the book of Judges. Book of Judges. We don't go there very often. I don't know if I've ever gone to the book of Judges in any of my Bible studies. Maybe. All right, Judges 3. Judges chapter 3. Go there. Okay? Judges 3, verse 8. Says, "Therefore the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of Chushan-Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia, and the children of Israel served Chushan-Rishathaim 8 years." All right. So, 6 times that they were captive. This first one that we read about was for 8 years. All right, 8 years. Follow me on this. Go to 3. We're in chapter 3. Go verses 12 through 14. "And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab, against Israel, because they had done evil in the sight of the Lord. And he gathered unto him the children of Ammon and Amalek, and went and smote Israel, and possessed the city of palm trees." 14. "So the children of Israel served Eglon, the king of Moab, 18 years. All right, 18 years. And I'm going to keep writing years, but okay, that's 18. Gosh, that's a horrible looking 8. 8 and 18 so far. All right, go to chapter 4, Judges 4, verses 2 through 3. "And the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, that reigned in Hazor, the captain of whose host was Sisera, which dwelt in Harosheth of the Gentiles. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, for he had 900 chariots of iron, and 20 years he mightily oppressed the children of Israel." So this time they're captive for 20 years. Okay? Judges chapter 6, verse 1. "And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. All right? So they're in captivity for 7 years. Chapter 10 of Judges, verses 7 and 8. "And the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he sold them into the hands of the Philistines, and into the hands of the children of Ammon. And that year they vexed and oppressed the children of Israel 18 years. 18 years. So another 18 years they're held in captivity. Remember, these years when they're outside of the will of God, whether it's spiritually or even physically, or both, those are years He doesn't count those. You're outside of my plan. I'm not even looking at that. All right? So, go to this. This is the last one. Judges 13, verse 1. "And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years. 40 years. All right? So, if you add all these years up, you get 111 Hope you can see that. 111 years. All right? So now you come back here to our 591. 591, subtract these 111 years that God doesn't count because they're outside of the will of God. And what do you get? 480. You're like, well, that's no good. You're still not at 490. Hang in there. Remember, we're going to the time of the dedication of the Temple of Solomon. The dedication of the temple, it took 10 years to build the temple. It took 10 years to build the temple. So add those 10 years on to build the temple, and you're at 490. 490. Amazing. Here we are again. 490 years. All right, let's go to the next one. The temple, from the temple to the Edict of Artaxerxes. And I wrote it up here. 1005 BC, 445 BC. All right? That, if you subtract that out, is a difference of 560 years. That's not 490, it's 560. But it's during this time, and this goes back to the 70, remember, and it goes into another video I was talking about the Jubilees, these 7-year periods, and then at the end of the 7 cycles of those 7-year periods would be the year 50, which was the year of Jubilee. All right. Well, the Jews were supposed to respect those 7-year increments, those Shemitah cycles is what they're called, and they didn't. And they didn't observe those to give the land a year of rest, to give the people a year of rest. They didn't do that. And so because they did that so many times, 70 in fact, for each one of those that they missed, God sent them a year of exile in Babylon. So they were in Babylon, exiled in Babylon, captivity in Babylon for 70 years. So if I get my 560 here, and again, that means they're outside of the land, that's outside of God's will, 560 subtract those 70 years, 490. 490. Amazing, isn't it? I think it's absolutely amazing. So here we are. We've got the Edict of Artaxerxes to the time of, from the temple to Artaxerxes, 560 years, but we know that they were in captivity for 70 years, 490. 490 every single time. Every time you deduct whenever they're outside of God's will, whether it's the 15 years here, or the 111 here, or the 70 here. Okay? So, now, from the time, so, and we know this, it says that from the time that the edict was given to go back to build the wall, to the time that Messiah would ride in, from the time that Messiah would start his ministry, was going to be 69 weeks. 69 weeks, or 483 years. Oops, not plus, sorry. Anyway, 483 years. You're saying that's not 490. No, but remember, the 7-year tribulation period has to be accomplished. And here's the other thing too, when you were saying, well, people were asking, or maybe you weren't, but I'm assuming people are asking, like, well, how do you get 490 years between the Edict of Artaxerxes to the Millennial Kingdom? We're not even to the Millennial Kingdom right now. That's still in the future for us. And you're right, but if you go back and watch my video, had the Jews accepted Jesus as their Messiah, and I'm going to draw a small timeline up here. Okay, here we have the cross of Christ. If the Jews would have accepted their Messiah instead of rejecting him 3 times, at the time of Stephen, which was that 3rd time that they rejected him, all right, had they accepted Jesus at that point as their Messiah, the millennial kingdom would have started right there. Instead, since they did reject, that millennial kingdom got slid out, and now we're in this dispensational, or this parenthetical age, this dispensation of grace. But had the Jews accepted their Messiah, and I recommend you watch that video, the millennial kingdom would have slid way back to here. It would have started here like it was supposed to. Remember, Jesus always talked about the kingdom of heaven. He came only to the Jews, and he preached the kingdom of heaven, which is a physical kingdom. And if you watch that video I just did, you'll know that the tribulation period is surrounded right here, from the time of Stephen back to when Jesus started his ministry. All right? Was 7 years. That was the tribulation. Now, it wasn't completely accomplished, and they stoned Stephen, so all of it got pushed out. But on God's original timeline and plan, from the edict of Artaxerxes to the time that the millennial kingdom would have started, back here in the time of Jesus, 490 years, adding that 7-year tribulation period that surrounds right here. So it all adds up, okay? And you can go backward from it too. This is what's fascinating. From Abraham, if you go back, let me get my blue marker again, and forward, I'm going to show you a couple of different things. And I can't completely reconcile some of it, but it's interesting. From the time of Abraham back to here, to Noah, okay, 490 years, okay. Some people, or most people, say that Noah's flood was around 2400 BC. 2400 BC. All right. And that's not going to come up to 490. I don't have it subtracted right there, but you would then have to take out periods of Nimrod, who was the great-great-grandson of Noah. Nimrod could be the one who built the Tower of Babel. I think so. I think Nimrod was the one who built the Tower of Babel. So you would have to take out those years, those periods of time that concern Nimrod. And I didn't get to go back there and do all of that and look all that up. But that's interesting to me. I think if you were to take those periods of time out, you would come up with this 490. Now going forward again, from this point, and I don't know how you could reconcile it exactly. We know that the millennial kingdom is 1,000 years. What if that's split up into two 490-year periods? It leaves 20 years unaccounted for, right? And that I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I don't know how you would reconcile that, but if there is something that happens or something that takes place or where 20 years is in play, then again, that would add up pretty darn close to the 1,000 years going forward into the millennial kingdom. Just something to kind of think about, look at. Let's see, what else do I have? Sorry, I get confused with this, flipping my pages. Here's something I wanted to put forth, and I don't know if I should put this in a separate video or if I should keep it here. I think I'm going to do it in a separate video, just kind of a short, so I'm going to hold on to that. Anyway, guys, does God work in 490-year increments? I think so. And that's obviously a number that he holds on to, these 70 weeks of 7. 70 times 7. Even when Peter asked Jesus, how often should I forgive someone? 7 times? And Jesus said, no, 70 times 7. I think that's Matthew 18:22, if I remember right. He said, no, 70 times 7. Well, those are numbers that God favors, especially 7. So it makes sense that he would deal with these 490-year increments. We know this one, because that was going to play out had the Jews accepted Jesus as their Messiah. It would have been 490 years, okay, with that 7-year tribulation. We know that only 483 of those weeks were accomplished, and only part of the tribulation, because they end up stoning Stephen and denying their Messiah, so that gets pushed out. But it still all adds up. And I just think it's fascinating to deal with these numbers. So that's why there's the video about, are we nearing the 6,000 year mark? That's what the Shemitah cycle videos are all about. All of this ties together. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I just finally got to it. So anyway, guys, I'm only at about a half hour. I don't know if I'll use this as a midweek or a Sunday video, but either way, any questions or comments, please leave them below. Almost forgotten. This is the most important thing. For those of you who are not yet saved, all right, for those of you who are not yet saved, I'll use this timeline right here. I believe that we are in the end times. I believe that we are very, very close to the rapture. Okay? There's two kinds of people in this world, saved and unsaved. The saved are those who have trusted on Christ, and therefore, because they've trusted on Christ's finished work, when we die or rapture out of here, we go to spend eternity in heaven with God. For those who are not saved, you will die, and then you will go and spend eternity in hell, in a place of torment for all of eternity. And yes, you'll be alive, but it will be painful, it will be sorrowful, it will be horrible. You don't want to be there. So what can you do then to prevent going to hell? What can you do? How can you have assurance that when you die, you're going to heaven? Well, with all these videos I've been doing, they're all pointing toward the fact that we're in this dispensation of grace. It's a parenthetical age, but because the Jews rejected their Messiah, God sent Paul to the Gentiles. And under Paul's ministry, which is a different dispensation, a different ministry than what Jesus or Peter had, or even John the Baptist, in this dispensation of grace, we are saved by faith alone, not of works. Ephesians 2:8-9. So to be saved, the only thing we can do that is not a work is trust. Trusting is the only thing you can do that is not a work. All right? So what must we trust on? Well, Paul tells us in his gospel of 1 Corinthians 15:1-4, that we must trust on the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. You trust on that 100% and 0% on your works. Taking it a step farther, Romans 3:25, which tells us that we are saved through faith in his blood. Jesus shed his blood to wash away our sins. Do you want your sins washed away? I do. I did. And so mine are washed away. Jesus is God. That's the other part of this. But Jesus is God. And when he was on the cross, he had you in mind. He had me in mind. And he knew every sin that we would ever commit. And he died for all of them. So now, to have your sins forgiven and washed away, you trust on this blood. And when you do that, Jesus, his atoning blood washes all of your sins away. That's how you get forgiveness. That's how you get access to heaven. You must have faith in his blood. All right? Ephesians 1:13, which tells us that once we get saved, we are sealed by the Holy Spirit, which means you cannot lose your salvation. The blood of Christ made atonement for all of your sins, even the one you commit 50 years from now. It's already been paid for. It's already washed away. It's gone if you've trusted. Now, salvation is twofold. I've told you what you must do, which is basically trusting. But you also must know who Jesus is. You must know that Jesus is God. We have a triune God, one God who can manifest and does manifest in three persons: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. All right? So, you must know that Jesus is God. He was 100% man, 100% God. All right? If you do that, then you're saved, and you're always saved. All right? If you have questions or comments about that, or about anything in this video, or about anything, put them in the comment section below, or text me, email me, whatever. All my stuff is out there as far as forms of communication. So anyway, guys, that's it for now. I still got a few more videos to film, so I'm going to keep going. All right, guys, take care and God bless.